Imagine visiting a country where the roads are empty, cities are small, and the idea of overpopulation doesn't exist. These 10 European countries might surprise you with their low populations. From icy landscapes to hidden financial hubs, we'll explore the reasons why so few people call these countries home. Stick around until the end, you'll be shocked by the last one. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more intriguing travel content. Number 1. Iceland. Let's start with Iceland, a land of fire and ice. Known for its volcanoes, glaciers, and unique culture. You might think, who wouldn't want to live in a place so beautiful? Yet, only about 350,000 people call this stunning country home. The reasons go beyond the freezing temperatures and remote location. Iceland is part of the mid-Atlantic ridge, meaning the country is in a constant state of volcanic activity. The unpredictable nature of the land, coupled with the extreme weather, especially in winter, makes Iceland difficult to settle in. Imagine months without sunlight in the winter and constant eruptions during summer. What about Iceland's population growth? The reality is, Iceland has had a struggle with economic growth and diversification in comparison to larger European countries. While it's a dream destination for travelers, the cost of living is extremely high, and infrastructure in rural areas remains sparse. Even with the promise of geothermal energy, it still presents challenges. Have you ever thought about living in a place where the ground is literally heated beneath your feet, yet the weather still keeps you indoors for half the year? Additionally, Iceland faces one of the highest emigration rates in Europe. Many Icelanders choose to move abroad, either for better economic opportunities or because of the harsh living conditions. This adds to the low population, and it becomes a place where, despite its beauty, the human presence is minimal compared to its natural wonders. Number 2. Liechtenstein. The tiny principality of Liechtenstein is next. With a population of about 40,000 and just 160 square kilometers of land, Liechtenstein is known for its wealth, but not for its bustling cities or vibrant streets. Why? Well, there's just no room. Surrounded by Switzerland and Austria, Liechtenstein is a wealthy country, but its geography isn't forgiving. The steep mountain slopes that make up most of the country aren't ideal for large-scale urban development. In fact, most of its residents live in a few small villages and towns along the Rhine River, with the majority of the economy being based on finance and industry. The majority of Liechtenstein's wealth lies in its banking and finance sectors, yet most of its residents prefer to live in neighboring countries like Switzerland or Austria. The country has a very low birth rate, and the limited land for expansion keeps its population stagnant. Imagine living in a nation where everyone is friendly, the air is pristine, and you're surrounded by million-dollar views, but the cost of real estate makes it near impossible for locals to settle down. It's also important to note the historical factors at play here. Liechtenstein's status as a financial hub means that many of its citizens are often abroad for work, leading to a kind of population imbalance. What happens when a country is so successful economically that it simply can't accommodate its own people? Number 3. Monaco. Known for luxury and grandeur, Monaco might seem like the ultimate European destination, but despite its popularity with the rich and famous, Monaco's population is small. Why? Well, Monaco is incredibly dense. With only 2 square kilometers of land, it has the second highest population density in the world. And though the elite come to Monaco to live or visit, it's mostly for work, not for life. The city-state has limited real estate, and the high costs make it inaccessible for the average person. Despite being an international symbol of wealth, Monaco is facing a demographic issue. The population is aging, and there aren't enough young people to replace the older generation. Many people who live there are either very rich or hold diplomatic jobs. How does a place so opulent, a place where you might run into a celebrity on the street, still manage to have so few residents? What does that tell us about modern society? Interestingly, while Monaco remains a glamorous destination for vacationers, many of the inhabitants are simply there for short-term benefits like tax advantages, rather than for the long-term lifestyle. Can you imagine living in a place where everything looks perfect, but the real struggle is finding someone who's genuinely from there? Number 4. San Marino. San Marino, a historical gem, is surrounded by Italy and claims to be the world's oldest republic. Yet its population is under 35,000. Despite its rich history, San Marino faces many geographical and economic challenges. Sitting on a mountaintop with steep inclines, the country is physically isolated from the rest of Italy, which makes it difficult to build the necessary infrastructure to support a larger population. Furthermore, San Marino's small size and limited agricultural land make it impractical for widespread residential development. Many of its residents live in the capital, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but the majority commute to nearby Italian cities for work. The country is also heavily reliant on tourism, with visitors flocking to see its ancient walls and medieval castles. However, this influx of tourists does not translate into a thriving permanent population. Imagine living in a country with such a rich history, yet feeling disconnected from the rest of the world because of its isolation. Could you embrace the quiet charm of San Marino, or would you feel the pull of bigger cities nearby? Number 5. Vatican City. Vatican City is unique. As the spiritual center of Catholicism, it's not really a place for regular citizens to live. Its population consists mostly of clergy, and since it's more of a religious center than a traditional country, the residents are very few, around 800 people. Unlike most European nations, the Vatican is incredibly well preserved and unspoiled, but there are no typical citizens. Vatican City is a city-state dedicated to religious matters, and those who live there are often priests, bishops, or members of the clergy. With no families or regular citizens, it becomes clear that Vatican City is simply not meant for regular settlement. But imagine a city that is both a religious sanctuary and a state. What does this unique status say about the nature of human settlements? Vatican City's population is also surprisingly transient. While the Pope and the cardinals call it home, most of its inhabitants are either diplomats or temporary residents with a very specific role in the Church's administration. How does a city with such enormous cultural influence remain so small in population? Number 6. Andorra. Nestled in the Pyrenees Mountains between France and Spain, Andorra is a beautiful principality with only about 77,000 residents. Despite its scenic mountain views, tax advantages, and ski resorts, Andorra is one of the least populated countries in Europe. Why? Well, Andorra is landlocked and has a very limited amount of arable land, meaning agriculture is challenging. Its economy relies heavily on tourism, and many of its residents are actually immigrants working in the service sector rather than locals. What's interesting is that Andorra's low population is also tied to its small size, only 468 square kilometers. The country simply doesn't have the infrastructure or space to accommodate a larger population. Can you imagine living in a place where every road, every valley feels so isolated, yet it's such a popular tourist destination? Adding to this, Andorra has a very low birth rate, and the majority of its population is aging. It faces many of the same challenges as other small nations: a high dependency on external markets, low fertility, and migration out of the country. It may be a haven for tax breaks and skiing, but how sustainable is it to keep such a small population in the long term? Number 7. Malta. Malta is a tiny island nation in the Mediterranean with a population of just over 500,000. Though famous for its historical sites, including the ancient city of Mdina and the capital Valletta, Malta's low population comes down to several factors. One of the biggest challenges for Malta is its lack of space. The island is only about 316 square kilometers, which is incredibly small for a country. The population density is one of the highest in Europe, which makes it a difficult place for expansion. Another reason is Malta's reliance on the tourism industry. Much like Andorra, the majority of the economy is driven by visitors, especially during the summer months. While tourism brings wealth to the country, it doesn't necessarily translate into sustainable long-term growth. There is also a very high cost of living, especially for real estate, making it harder for locals to settle down and have families. With so many young people moving abroad for better opportunities, the population continues to grow slowly. Doesn't it seem strange that a country with such a rich culture and prime location struggles with population growth? Despite the warm Mediterranean weather, there's a certain quietness to life in Malta, something that leaves visitors wondering what it would be like to truly settle there. Number 8. Estonia. Estonia, a beautiful Baltic nation, is a paradox. While it is technologically advanced with one of the most innovative e-government systems in the world, it struggles with a population of only 1.3 million. Why? First of all, the harsh winters, long nights, and cold temperatures are not inviting for long-term living. The country, which is about the size of New Hampshire, has an aging population, and its birth rate is not sufficient to replace the number of people leaving for other European countries. Estonia also faces rural depopulation, with a high concentration of people in the capital, Tallinn, while the countryside remains nearly empty. The lack of job opportunities in rural areas forces many young people to move to other European countries in search of better prospects. But Estonia is not just cold, it's also a digital haven, where most services are online and even voting can be done via the internet. This modernity and connectedness make it unique, but does it create a disconnect from the reality of the countryside? Could it be that in an age of technology, people are finding themselves isolated even more? And yet Estonia is also an example of how small nations adapt and innovate to survive. With its population shrinking, Estonia has turned to technology and e-residency programs to invite global talent to move there, even if they don't physically reside in the country. It's fascinating to see how a nation's strategy to grow its economy might be the very reason it struggles with keeping its people at home. Number 9. Luxembourg. Luxembourg, known for its wealth and political influence in Europe, has a population of just over 600,000. The reasons for this surprisingly low population are multifaceted. Luxembourg is a financial powerhouse, but its size and the concentration of industries leave little room for growth. Most of the workers are immigrants, and the country faces challenges related to housing and infrastructure. Luxembourg's government has worked hard to attract international businesses, offering low taxes and high salaries to multinational companies. But this has led to a situation where most of the wealth is in the hands of a small number of people. There are few incentives for locals to stay in a country that is continually changing in its demographic makeup. Despite the high standard of living, this constant influx of foreigners leads to an overwhelming sense of transience. People come, work, and leave. It's also important to note that Luxembourg is situated in a region with a very high cost of living. This deters many from settling there for the long haul. Though it's an attractive place to visit and to do business, what does it mean for a country when the population remains so small and the people who live there are only temporary? Number 10. Switzerland. Switzerland is one of the most fascinating countries on this list. Despite its high standard of living, strong economy, and beautiful landscapes, Switzerland's population is comparatively low at around 8.7 million. This is largely due to the country's unique position in Europe. It's geographically isolated, and its mountainous terrain makes expansion difficult. While the country enjoys high quality of life and political neutrality, the real issue lies in the fact that most Swiss people are highly protective of their lifestyle and often resist significant population growth. Switzerland's topography is a limiting factor. Much of the land is taken up by the Swiss Alps, leaving little room for expansion. In addition, the country's economy is highly specialized, with a strong focus on banking, pharmaceuticals, and precision manufacturing. This has led to an interesting dynamic. Many people come to Switzerland for work, but only a small percentage actually settle there permanently. Interestingly, Switzerland also has a very low birth rate, similar to other European countries. Despite being wealthy, the high cost of living and the strong emphasis on individualism discourage young families from staying and growing the population. Could it be that Switzerland's very success and beauty have led to a population that doesn't need to grow? Or perhaps it's the balancing act between prosperity and sustainable living that keeps the population controlled? So, which of these countries would you like to visit or even live in? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's keep the conversation going. If you enjoyed this deep dive, check out our next video, 10 American Cities That Are Dead Forever. Don't forget to subscribe and see you next time.